Right, let's bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell, now. Just quickly, we'll get into just a general sense of things. I'm keen for what it feels like on the ground to you, Andrew. But I spoke to a former senior ranking AFP officer last night, a superintendent, who said it beggars belief that the government hasn't at least put out some detail, non-identifying detail, sure to Australians, just to give them confidence that they will be safe upon the return of these women, in particular, if there are control orders in place. Any of that sort of granular information, he says, should be already out there in the public domain.
Yeah, I don't think there's control orders, do you? Otherwise, we might have heard of an application to a court or something of that nature. So would there be some form of surveillance, say, by New South Wales Police? Probably, because they were asked about it at a parliamentary committee hearing and they said they were making preparations. So perhaps that's going on. But, yeah, they don't want to talk about it, right? So they're not.
I don't think they'll get away with that, though. I think they don't want the grabs in the camera and they want you and I to run it, but I don't think the coalition's going to give up, and I know Australians are concerned. Let's go to your just general sense of things. It's been some time since, the boarding school was back in full swing. They're all there. What's the mood like in Canberra?
Well, it's a pretty weird week to be back here. I mean, it's school holidays in most states other than Queensland. And, he promised a family-friendly parliament. I mean, I've obviously got a vested interest here, Peter, but so do a lot of MPs. And I just don't understand why Parliament is sitting this week and not on a number of other weeks. Why this week? I mean, the politicians have a hard enough time seeing their families as it is, and you're dragging everyone back in school holidays. And one theory that someone from the coalition proffered to me today is that the Prime Minister's scheduling a lot of sitting weeks when there's a public holiday, so he only has to do 3 days, not 4, of question time and Parliament generally. And it very much has that feel about it. There have been a number of weeks like that. There was a school holidays week last year and we had the public holiday on Monday, of course, so they only have to have the 3 sitting days. But that in itself is puzzling. The opposition's obviously grateful, I guess, to have the 000 scandal to explore, because that put Annika Wells and the government on the back foot. There's no doubt about that today. If they didn't have that, they'd have nothing and they'd just be getting hammered with their own internal woes, particularly after Andrew Hastie pulled the pin out of the grenade and didn't throw it. So, that's something, that's an issue that's come along at the right time for the coalition, it has to be said.
I'll give you an insight. The reason why governments like to schedule in school holidays is the understanding that when Parliament's on, the coalition get a boost. People see the Liberal leader or the opposition leader as a political personality. They grow their brand, they grow their reach. And, of course, if you're on school holidays, you're at the caravan park with the kids, you're not clocked into the news like you normally would. That's the theory, and that's why they like to put it into school holidays. We'll see if it works for the Prime Minister. But I think the own goals from the Liberals are making his job easier, even if he's not really performing as he promised. There was a story this morning that Andrew Hastie or someone raised the backbiting, the internal leaks, all the sort of hoo-ha of the last few months in the Liberal Party room today. This is a new backbencher, apparently frustrated with everything going on. This is clearly a brawl now between the moderates and Conservatives, less about Hastie and Price, more about the two factions at war. I suspect this is going to get worse, Andrew, before it gets better.
Yeah, and it looks a brawl between Lee and Hastie, doesn't it? Just to put more clarity around it, to put a sharper focus on it. That's what it very much looks like to me. He's had a bit of a crack at her, and who knows if people associated with her leaked that story on what Dutton told the Review. And look, apparently there wasn't a written submission, so it was a pretty confused story. But what I can tell you is that Dutton and Hastie, they did, their relationship fell apart in the last term. And from Dutton's point of view, he felt Hastie wasn't doing the work. And from Hastie's point of view, he felt Dutton publicly humiliated him when he took a proposal to have a joint Parliamentary Defence Intelligence Committee to Shadow Cabinet. So he was allowed to take it all the way to Shadow Cabinet, Peter, and then Dutton smashed it in Shadow Cabinet. So Dutton had the option to say to Hastie beforehand, look, don't put it up, I don't like it. He didn't do that. And from Hastie's point of view, he was deliberately humiliated in that meeting. So that's when things went really awry in their relationship. And look, this is something I reported on first in May, but there's no doubt that the relationship between that pair is a real issue, or was a real issue. And that's something that, with Hastie seen as a leadership threat to Lee, is being used against Hastie at the moment with that Nine Newspapers article on a public holiday Monday. Now, if people think they're helping Susan Lee with that leak, and maybe a leak from another quarter, I don't know. But if people think they're helping Susan Lee with that leak, they don't, because all it shows is how divided the show is. And that, you know, that just causes more problems for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, well, I don't think for a minute that leak came from Peter Dutton, as you stated, and confirmed today by one of the people doing the review. The former Senator Nick mentioned that there was no written submission. He has made some comments about the election campaign, as he should. The review's not serious unless they're hearing from the leader, but he, and I quote, has avoided direct criticism of any of his shadow ministers. So I have to say this is coming from the left, a stupid own goal from the left. But why on earth would you strip someone like Andrew Hastie of immigration when he is the shadow of a minister in Tony Burke who has immigration in his portfolio? I mean, if that's the smarts of someone like Alex Hawke, who I'm told from the left and the right was heavily involved in this whole process, you got to think the guy's, as I say, a good bobber boy, but he ain't that smart.
Well, he does seem quite central to things. And so when you talk about moderates versus Conservatives, it might be a bit more complicated than that, in the sense that it could be Alex Hawke and people associated with him versus Conservatives. And he's traditionally known as the centre-right. And so was Susan Lee, and she now casts herself as a moderate.
Not the centre-right. Oh, please.
Well, he's never been the moderate faction. Alex Hawke is, as someone who's covered New South Wales politics, or covered it for 15 years, Alex Hawke in the moderates faction.
He was in the Morrison faction. He's like a self-identifying bloke.
He was in the centre-right.
Who wants to avoid being sent into a male jail. Yeah, he'll call himself whatever he needs to hang on to power, let me tell you. I will leave it there. Got to get through the rest of the show. Have a good week.